Hey, it's Tuesday. We are about to get absolutely hammered with some rain here in New Jersey. Severe weather alerts coming in, but it's Tuesday, and you know what that means. It's time to tie one on. Let's see what we got. Hey guys, so we're out here at the boat. Gonna try to hopefully get this done before this rain and hefty winds and thunder comes in. This week we're gonna talk about crankbaits a little bit. One kind of style of specific cranking, not a square bill, but deep cranking. Just pulled out of the rod locker here. This is my deep cranking stick that I have. It's in Enigma Fishing, Atomic 29. This is a 711 heavy action. It's 1/2 ounce to 2 ounce. This is for some large crankbaits or your extra large crankbaits. This rod obviously is just about 8 foot. This thing's pretty beefy, but I will say it still does, pull the rod sock off here, still does have a nice tip to it for the rod. I mean, it's pretty bulky back here, but then again, I'll actually show out my 7-footer. My 7-foot one, it's still glass, but this thing's actually bulkier looking than my 8-foot one, and it's a medium action or medium heavy action one. Had this down. Actually, I have this paired with, it's a Shimano, the Curado 200, the 200K. It's a 6.2 gear ratio. I believe it's 6 to 1 gear ratio. Obviously, that's not probably my best idea, as you could say, for deep cranking. Let's get the camera focus in here. It's probably not the best reel, I guess you could say, for deep cranking. I am looking at going to Abu Garcia, the Revo winch. I believe that's a 5 to 4 ratio to put on this setup. Obviously, this setup doesn't get used a lot. I mean, it's an 8-foot pole. You gotta have some room to be able to cast this. Like, obviously, you're not gonna be using this and rolling along a riprap wall to some extent, or in order you're gonna be throwing a crankbait of this size along a riprap wall unless it's a 15 or foot or larger ledge there. But I mean, this right here is a 6XD on this. This rod actually is probably, it's kind of overkill for this. I probably could go to the 711 medium heavy that they make. They make 7 different models in this rod, I believe. Actually, I have 2 of these. I have 2 more coming in for my chatterbaits. This is a good rod though, I think. It's beefy, it's bulky, it still has a nice tip to it. It's sensitive. I'm sure once I get a specific cranking style reel on here that's a little bit lower gear ratio, it's probably going to take a lot less strain off of yourself from using this. And I was down the flats the other day, or the upper Chesapeake, and I ended up pulling this out and was deep cranking on some ledges, and my God, does this thing put a beating on you a little bit. I mean, you cast this thing 10 times and reel it back in on a 60 or 70 yard throw, and I mean, you're working. This one, I believe, I think this is also 12-pound fluorocarbon on here, which is usually what I run on my cranking rods. Obviously this, if you're throwing a 6XD or a 10XD, you probably could bulk it up, and I think it's still not, you're not really going to have an issue of it getting down there, in my opinion. But I mean, 12 pounds kind of my go-to. It's a little bit thinner diameter, it's still light enough to help you get them depths. I believe this one goes, I think it's like 15 to 18 feet, if I'm not mistaken, the 6XD. I know the 10XD goes 25 and larger, if I'm not mistaken. So that's kind of how I have this one paired up. My other one is the same thing. That's actually a 7-foot medium heavy rod. This is normally, I feel like the Strike King 1.5s or 2.5s. This is paired with a Enigma Ipen reel, and the same. It's a 6 to 1 gear ratio, so that's even a little bit faster. The one thing I will say about using this one, the Shimano, obviously we all know Shimano makes very high-end reels. The 6 gear ratio, when you get this thing out there and you start cranking on it to get that going, I will say the 6 definitely, you can feel it help get you down there a little bit faster. Now going to a 5 something gear ratio reel, I don't know if that'll help me or hurt me. Obviously it's kind of one of them, I guess it's just a trial and error kind of phase, but that's kind of how I'm looking to go for that. But I don't really have a ton of these. Like I said, this is a rod that was actually, I think that was the first time I've actually used it to its potential. I mean, I have thrown some KVD 2.5s or some like medium diving crankbaits on these that don't, I mean, they're not getting down as deep as these, maybe like that 10 to 12 foot range. And that still just wasn't really putting this rod, I don't think, to work, and it's not really what the application at that time is what it's used for. This is kind of definitely more what it's meant for. Like I said, obviously this is kind of going to be more of, I think, an open water style cranking, like some kind of cranking like a ledge or a deep spot out in open water. It's just kind of exactly how I was running this. But pulled out some fish on this big boy. I mean, when you're cranking in 19 foot of water and you hook a fish and you gotta drag it all the way up to the top, and it's a couple pound fish or a big boy, I mean, you're gonna be in for your work. I mean, this wasn't I'm gonna set the hook and just horse it right up to the boat. It's kind of, you're gonna take your time and let that fish kind of come up, and you're gonna work it as it's going. But that's kind of it for this week, guys. Not much to mention here. I don't really do this a ton, but this kind of did get used this weekend. I was kind of very happy to have it for that nice deep cranking that I was doing. I guess it's the same. Hey, you always buy things that you know at some point you're going to use. I do like crankbait fishing a lot, and this one definitely got some work put in it last weekend. But that's it for this week, guys. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Give us a follow on Instagram or Facebook at Madden Outdoors. Let me know what you guys think. Throw me some comments. What size? If you're throwing some deep crankbaits, what's your setup? What kind of crankbaits are you throwing? But main thing, don't forget to like and subscribe. Tune in this week. We got a boat walkthrough coming in. Keep them lines tight, guys. Enjoy.